round number one. So I'm not religious anymore, but I grew up in the Catholic Church. And one of my favorite things every year, because to me it was pretty ho-hum and vanilla and boring a lot of the times. I didn't love it. But they did the blessing of the animals every year. So the priest would go out in the parking lot and everybody could bring their pets. And it was kind of like a pet parade of all the parishioners bringing through. And my favorite was the Abbott family had a goat. And they would bring their goat, and it was just like a spectacle that everybody loved. Some people would bring their birds in cages. We brought our cat Jetty Boy, rest in peace. He was a delight. But yeah. I know, longtime stoolie Jetty Boy.
Brick
by brick. We all sure do miss him. But slightly more aggressive version of Blessing of the Animals happening over in Russia with the Blessing of the Nukes. So according to new guidelines being discussed by the Russian Orthodox Church, Russian priests should refrain from the practice of blessing nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction that can inflict loss of life. So that means they have been blessing these things if they're looking to stop it. During 2 decades in power, Vladimir Putin has aligned himself with the Orthodox Church, which has also developed closer ties with the Ministry of Defense. So no separation of church and state there. And for as long as history goes, the Russian government has used the church kind of as another way to control the people type thing. But Russian priests have long appeared in images sprinkling holy water on submarines, ballistic missiles, space rockets, and other pieces of hardware as part of rituals to bless them. But some say that it needs to stop, and the church has approved a document drawn up by the commission to cut that out. The blessing of military weapons is not reflected in the tradition of the Orthodox Church and does not correspond to the content of the rite. The document from the church in Moscow says, blessing or sanctifying weapons that kill an indefinite number of people must be excluded from pastoral practice, it says.
I like that the church has to make that statement.
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
At some point, they're like, you know what? We've been doing this for a little while. Let's go back and review our social media policy. Our social media policy right now is allowing us to bless these nukes, but maybe we should take just a tiny little half step back and say, you know what? Long-range missiles are fine as long as they don't have a nuclear warhead.
Yeah.
We're not doing any of the nuclear warhead blessing at all. But if you've seen any of these, the Russian Orthodox priests, these
ballers
folks are wild cards. Just the way that they dress, I don't understand how that happens over tradition, where it's just like the priests, they add more and more pomp and circumstance to their outfit. Now, if you're a high-level Russian Orthodox priest, the clothes that you're wearing look like you're stepping off the runway in 18th century Milan. Where you're just wearing all kinds of garters, you're wearing all kinds of big hats, and these Russian priests, they are fucking crazy people. One of my favorite videos in the history of the internet is where these Russian priests, the Russian Orthodox priests, I think they're actually in Georgia, country of Georgia, where they will take the babies and they will baptize the ever-loving fuck out of these babies.
Yeah.
It's like they're basically fucking Undertaker and doing a tombstone on a baby into the water.
It's
where some of the babies are baptized so hard that the moms leave crying. What did you do to my kid?
It's like the baby is an Oreo. And they're just dunking it in the milk extremely aggressively. I promise you, there's babies that ding the edge of that sucker.
It's like when Blake Griffin went up for that dunk, but he didn't dunk it. He just rose above the hoop and threw it into the hoop.
Yes.
That's what the priest does with the baby.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So definitely a slightly different vibe over there. And knowing, too, that it's so tightly tied in with the military there. And in a symbol of the close defense church ties in Russia, the armed forces are building their own sprawling cathedral. So the military is building, I'm trying to picture the Marine Corps building its own, but they're building this enormous cathedral at a military-themed park outside of Moscow. And it's set to be one of the tallest Orthodox churches in the world. So the military is building this mega church, and it's on this. So I went down a rabbit hole on this. Military-themed park outside Moscow. So I Googled that, and what came up was Patriot Park, and it's considered Russia's military Disneyland. So it is this enormous, it's hundreds and hundreds of acres, and it displays military hardware in a family-friendly environment, which also attracts international arms dealers. So it's almost like in a massive showroom for Russia's military capabilities and weapons and vehicles and everything. And people can climb all over it. You can go to shooting ranges. You and your family can go to a simulated meltdown, and like take over famous buildings and do all sorts of crazy shit. They have the simulators, like the game rooms.
Man, those fellas from Richmond a couple weeks ago would have a field day.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gyarados.
But it's absolutely crazy. So
This sounds awesome. I just want to say.
I know.
I mean,
looking
that
at the
sounds
photos of it, it looks pretty sweet.
like that sounds like you could fit like an awesome paintball course in there.
Oh yeah.
Like clearing buildings and going around tanks and all that kind of
I
stuff.
think they
You wanted
kinda
to shoot
have that.
actual stuff. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's huge. When Vladimir Putin opened the park, Patriot Park, in 2015, he proudly announced that it would be an important element in our system of military patriotic work with young people. During the same speech, he also announced the addition of 40 new intercontinental missiles to Russia's nuclear arsenal. So that kind of sums up Patriot Park. You know, every kid in Russia has to make a field trip here. You know that it is used just to indoctrinate people further into the. But looking at the photos, I mean.
And not even
wild.
that, but you know that the people in the military there, the Russian military, they have to do working parties. Like if you're a tanker and your tank is there, you got to stand out there in your uniform and tell like all the different kids what the weapons to do, show them where to go, how to be safe and shit like that. As a dog handler, I used to hate doing that.
Oh yeah.
That was one of the main things that dog handlers constantly had to do was go out to demonstrations and show people what the dog could do. Because if something goes bad, it's ultimately on you.
Yeah.
The command would always want to see bite work and aggression and things like that. You know that's going to happen.
I've had that happen to me before. When I used to, I was emceeing one summer. I did an internship with this like summer league baseball camp, and we were doing a canine demonstration where the guy was supposed to basically like what you did.
Yeah, in the Starbucks video.
And they were supposed to grab onto the arm. They take the dog out of the back of the cop car, like by the pitcher's mound, and he was supposed to grab onto the guy at second base. And he went straight for the first base umpire. But then I guess the trainer like whistled like right away, and he stopped. But like the umpire shit his pants. He went ghost white, and the dog like flew out at him, and he thought he was gonna die. He thought he was gonna get attacked by like a gnarly German Shepherd.
I imagine at this Russian military park, that happens every day there. I mean, not the dogs going crazy.
They don't care though. Like if you're a Russian kid and you get bit by a police dog, they're like, "This the problem. This is what happened when you're in Russia. You get beat by a dog."
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's a pretty good off the cuff Russian accent. Not great.
No, it was great.
Above average, I would say.
It was above
In
average.
Russia,
I'll say that.
Dog will get you.
Dog find you for dinner.
Dog find you in Russia.
We're both pretty good at it, actually. Final thought, it made me think we should open one military theme park here in the United States. And hear me out. Ticket prices. If you want to pay the minimum amount, like $45 to enter the park, you enter as a PFC. And you have to wear a lanyard that represents your level, your rank. If you want to pay a little bit more, guess what? You're a staff NCO. If you want to pay the full VIP price, you're an officer. Officers get to skip to the front of the coaster lines, and the PFCs
like
and stuff.
Fast pass at Six Flags.
And the lower ranks have to clean something in order to earn.
I was gonna say you can get in for free if you want to go in as like a private or something like that. But anytime you walk by like a trash can, somebody could be like, "Hey, pick that shit up, bitch." And you have to do it.
Exactly. And like smoking areas for the officers are cigars.
Nice.
And there's vaping. Yeah, it's a whole thing. There's smoke pits, everything. But military theme park, I think we could make it a thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe now with Penn National being involved, we could make up our own ZBT park.
I don't hate that. It could.
Yeah, we get sponsored.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. All right, let's move on to round two.